Hi guys, and welcome to episode 4 of the In the Hub podcast with me, Neil Thacker. In this episode, we discuss the ongoing shift from hardware-centric platforms to software-centric solutions within the broadcasting industry with this week's guest, Steve Feiner. Steve is the owner and chief engineer at Feiner Associates, based out of the United States. Feiner Associates have been serving the broadcasting and professional video services industries within New England for almost 40 years, providing custom hardware deployments, shared storage solutions, and systems integration services. Hope you enjoy this episode. How are we today, Steve?
Very good, thank you.
So we'll get straight into the questions then, if that's all right with you, Steve.
Yep, that would be fine.
Brilliant. So I'm curious, how and when did you get started in the broadcasting industry?
Well, we could start way back. I started in 1979. I went to work for a small production house in Boston. We were dealing with basically 2-inch tape, tube cameras, and stuff like that. And so it just kind of progressed from there. I went to work at a TV station as a maintenance engineer, fixing stuff. And, I thought for sure I'd find a home there, and I quickly learned I couldn't work for anybody and started my own business doing maintenance around Boston and stuff like that. Back then it was all tape machines and cameras had tape and stuff. And that was the big part of the business, was fixing tape machines. And, integration was kind of a very small part of it for us because we concentrated more on the maintenance of equipment. And once you installed a system for somebody, that was kind of my theory. If we installed the system, we would then get the maintenance work out of it, which was the bread and butter. But, this is our 40th year in business, pretty much. And it's been a good ride. There's been a lot of changes over the years and stuff. And I like to consider myself a little different than a lot of other integrators, whereas I'm more of an engineer. Other integrators, they tend to have somebody that knows what they're doing, design the system, and then they just hand it off to people that make cables and put it in. I'm more of a hands-on kind of guy. I'm very picky about the way things are done. And if we see something that we don't like, or I don't like, or I go, oh, this isn't going to work this way, we change it right on the spot. I like to bring extra value to, or value added kind of things. We just did a system for one of the states in our country, and I designed a lot of electronic stuff that's custom and stuff like that. So yeah, and 24/7 service is a big part of our business too. So
digging a little deeper into that, when we're talking about the projects that you guys take on, is it always this kind of strategic thought process behind them? Do you ask a lot of questions? What's the usual process for you guys?
So we sit down, we talk to them, and look at what they want to accomplish, their end goals. Honestly, a lot of these things are kind of, I don't want to say the same, but different. I don't know if that makes sense. It's, we all have the end goal of getting a product out the door. It's a question of how do you want to do that and how much money do you want to spend. We try to save our clients money where possible, but there's places I kind of put my foot down and go, no, I'm not going to do that, because you're not going to be happy in the end, because people tend to want to save money where they shouldn't. It's just like, as I try to tell them, you want to put in a good foundation for a house, and then you can change the rest later. If you don't put in the good foundation, it's hard to go. It's like starting over again, and you're going to spend more money down the road. It's like when we build a server for somebody, I go, let's put in a good motherboard and a good processor, because we could change the software, we can change the graphics card, we can change all that stuff, but if we're going to rip the whole computer apart again and put in a new motherboard, it's just kind of ridiculous. So, that's kind of the approach we take. Let's put in good wiring, good connectors, good patch fields, if we're doing kind of video kinds of stuff, or good network infrastructure. And then we can just build on that, and we can make it changes easily rather than going back and ripping. So that's kind of the approach, whether it's a small system, let's put in a good camera or a good monitor, it's hard to explain, but I tell people, look, this is where we can save money right now, and this is where we can't. So if you can't do this part, the we can't save money here, then I'd rather say, I've learned over the years to go, I can't help you. So that's kind of my theory. We're not a big, huge player. I mean, I've never gone after the, stadium jobs and that kind of stuff. I mean, that doesn't, we've built trucks for different companies and that kind of stuff. But, it sucks up so much of your time and revenue. And by the time you're done and you actually look what you really made and how much you put into it, and it's really not worth it. And once you do one or two, I mean, it's not, I want to do stuff that interests me and that I can add value to. I mean, anybody can build a truck. I mean, I don't mean to make light of it, but I mean, it's like once you do one, a lot of it's a cookie cutter kind of thing, I mean, there's different variations, but pretty much it's a cookie. I want to do stuff that I can really show that, we've done something special and different, and that I can look at and say, this is what we do, and this is the kind of stuff we've done for people. And that's how you make people happy. You save them money, you give them a good quality product, you make it look nice and stuff. And it doesn't matter if it's a little budget or a big budget, you kind of make them feel like you're all in on this. And that's kind of what we do.
I'm interested in kind of how, your role as a software integrator has changed as customers move away from traditionally more hardware platforms to software and virtualization.
That's a good question. I've always been kind of, so obviously we started off doing tape machines, monitors, that kind of fixing that kind of stuff. And I always had control over that because I could fix the electronics. I could dig into a schematic and kind of see where the problem was and fix it. I've had to, when we transitioned to doing a lot of software kind of stuff, I believe in like open architecture and that kind of stuff. I can build a CPU or a server, but I'm not a coder. We don't write software. I mean, I can do basic stuff, but like with blade blocks, I like to find software that I can vet and make sure that I can install this, that I'm not going to get a million phone calls going, this thing doesn't work. And we've been dealing with Playbox for a while, and the software has been pretty, we've watched it develop. I mean, look at everybody, but I have no control over the software. I tell the customer, I was like, I didn't write the code, I built the box. I'm going to do everything I can to get it fixed for you. And, and sometimes I've had to take things back. I mean, I don't want to stick somebody with something that it doesn't work. I give them, because that's my reputation. That's how we been around so long. It's, I've told customers, if it doesn't work, I'm taking it back. It doesn't do me any good to walk away from something and go, okay, I got your money, and here you go. This is all I can do. That doesn't work. I mean, I have to make sure that before I stick software onto a piece of hardware, that it's going to be solid. And, so I try and vet the stuff as best I can, but it's hard. I mean, it's not a bulletproof science. I mean, everything has problems, but, you try and do your best to make sure for the customer. I mean, I really try and make sure that everybody's happy at the end of the day with something that we've done. And if we're representing Playbox, that Playbox, stuff works the way, and it does, and it's been solid for us. We install it, we get no phone calls, other than when they want to spend more money, right? Because that's how you sell stuff, right? They go tell somebody, hey, this has been good, Finer did a nice job for us, whether we're selling a wholly integrated Playbox system or somebody else's. It's hard because a lot of companies don't put the research into, they get something working and say, we'll fix it later, or we'll fix these bugs, and they don't have the resources behind them. So that's been a tough thing, going from a hardware-based integration to a software-based kind of company for me. That because I've given up control over that. All I can do is go, hey, this doesn't work. What? And they go, huh? I don't know. We can't do that here, or we can't fix that problem. And it was hard, but we make it work, and it seems to be going pretty good for us. So I can't complain.
So branching off from that, in your opinion, what signaled the shift from this more kind of specialized hardware to purely software? Was it a specific event, or do you think it was more gradual?
I think it was more gradual. I mean, if you look at what's going on now, I think this whole pandemic has really pushed people to, if you wanted to buy a piece of streaming hardware or software now, software, but if you still need hardware to do that, forget it. It's weeks and months to try and get anything that has the word streaming next to it. Our customers call us, hey, can we get this? And so I think if you want to talk about anything that's accelerated the move to sort of a software-based environment for a lot of these broadcast facilities, it's this pandemic. People are working from home, and they're just the TV station, or however you want to call it, has become just a throughput point for IP streams going out the door. Look at the convention we just had in the U.S. That I've never watched a convention in my life, but I was watching that from more of a technical perspective to see how they pulled this off. And I got to tell you, it was pretty amazing the way they integrated all these different states from all over the country, and they were all from IP streams, and just people sitting in front of their laptop, or maybe they sent them a better quality camera. But I really think that this pandemic has really pushed the broadcaster, if you want to use that term, to move and think more of an IP stream. And a good friend of mine's a director of engineering for a company in the US, and I said to him a few years ago, I was like, just shut the TV transmitter off. What do you need it for? All these kids, they watch stuff on the phone. They don't sit in front of a TV screen. They don't care. They they get, my kids, get everything on their phone. They do not, even watching movies, they're like, I'm like, how can you do that? Well, you're probably in the age that you do. I can't do it, But yeah, I think this pandemic has really pushed faster than anything I can ever think in my career, to see the way people rethink the way they're going to broadcast information, or we use the word broadcast loosely, but it's all a stream now. I just think this has really pushed it fast. So yeah, I think TV facilities really need to think about what they've done for their infrastructure and how much money they spend on that kind of stuff. I think they're going to be rethinking that. Yeah, I think people just plug into the wall at their house and go, hey, we're here to do the news today. And they'll be sitting there, doing that kind of stuff. So in a way, it's kind of sad, well, for me, I miss a lot of the older way of doing things. That's kind of not true, but I guess I miss the quality level, because, and I'm sure the quality level will come with IP, but you see people at home on their laptop computer, and you go, oh, that just looks terrible to me. My wife's like, get over it,
I think you're a stickler for the quality, aren't you, Steve?
Yeah, I am. I must say the quality in the past couple of years, especially with vendors like Zoom and stuff, and people getting improved data rates in their home, has risen quite a bit. So it'll come. But like I said, I think this pandemic has really pushed the envelope of our technology and our infrastructure as far as IP.
So I think we already know your answer to this, Steve, but in a nutshell, would you agree that the shift from dedicated hardware to software has made broadcasting more accessible?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I think I said that in my last ramble. But yeah, I think that it's made it more accessible to people that wouldn't necessarily, in the old days, couldn't have been able to afford to do anything. I mean, we wouldn't be able to do this. I mean, this would have been a major undertaking to just record this from here to you. I mean, it just would have been we wouldn't have been able to do it. It just would have been cost prohibitive in the old days. So yeah, I do think it's made, and that's a good thing too. I mean, you end up with a lot of stuff that probably shouldn't be out there, but in the long run, it's a good thing that people should have access to get their message out easier and stuff, and market and sell stuff, and you just communicate. I mean, just, the way we communicate when, back in the old days, you'd see stuff on these science fiction movies, people like, having little handheld phones and talking, communicators, not to date myself, but I can remember being in second grade and one of my teachers going, someday people won't carry money. They'll just have a little card and they'll just, everybody's looking at her like, yeah, right, sure, right. But yes, it has made things easier for people to get their message out, which is good. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I think for these existing kind of hardware operations, no matter how simplistic or minimal they may be, do you think that commercial off-the-shelf hardware could be the future for these hardware applications?
Oh, yeah. I think that, I think a lot of people don't want to build specialized stuff. A lot of companies don't want to build specialized stuff. They just want to buy a piece of equipment, shove it in a rack or in some closet and, do their thing. And that's good. I mean, that's a good thing. I mean, it makes it easier for integrators, right? To just plug in. Things are a lot easier to go from one vendor to the other because there's all sorts of different standards, which there weren't 20 years ago. You'd be sitting there going, oh, this doesn't talk to this. We need to get this conversion to go to this thing. And whereas a lot of the manufacturers have gotten to get, distributing IP streams around a facility, it's a common, they haven't really agreed on a standard yet, but there's a couple of different standards. But for the most part, it's a plug and play. It recognizes that this is an audio device or this is a video device, and it just kind of works. Sometimes there's hiccups, but for the most part, it just works. So we've become basically, there's no more video per se. Video, I made them take video off our website because that kind of dates you, right? It's all IP. I mean, and that's why you get a lot of IT people that think they know video or think they know production or what's the big deal? Well, you still have to know something about, from my end, TV or the way the signal is processed or, what different standards their cameras are and stuff. But you get a lot of IT people in the business that go, what's the big deal? It's just a picture. It's just a data stream, right? So, yeah. So, yes, it's a good thing. I mean, everything has its good and bad, but yeah, it's pretty much a good thing. So TV stations have become pretty much a big server farm or network hub. Yeah, there's no regular video anymore. So, yeah.
And we touched on it a little bit earlier, but in terms of the integration process, does this differ quite widely between vendor to vendor? Are you finding it's becoming more simple or more complicated?
I think it's a little more complicated in a different way. I think I've had to become more of an IT person than a video person. I mean, there's that mix of both worlds. So it's become from getting different pieces of stuff to talk to each other. And far as standards and that stuff, like I was saying before, that's easier. But getting them all integrated together, you have to become more of an IT network specialist to say, why isn't this talking to this or that? So I've managed to do that and make it easier for me. But it's been, I make mistakes, I learn from them, and I move on, and I pick stuff that I know works together easily. So again, back to what I said before, I don't want to get phone calls from a client going, it doesn't work. I want to plug it in, set it up, leave it alone. Don't touch, don't update it. It's working now, and don't update it till I tell. And from our perspective, I don't know if this answers, but my business has become easy. In the old days, it was hard for me to go away because if something broke and I was the only one that could fix it at the shop, then that was a problem because, people want stuff 24/7. These days I can log in from I got servers all over the place. I can log in and see what's going on. And most problems I can fix remotely. Sometimes I have to go on site, but that's made my life easier from that perspective. So
I mean, you can finally start having vacations, Steve, by the sound of it.
A little bit, yeah, it's good. I mean, I like my work. I mean, we've pared down our company a lot and stuff. And like I said, I pick projects that we like to do, that I like to do, not necessarily that, I don't want to do something just to. Not that I don't like money, but I'm sort of past that point in my career where I just want to pick stuff that interests me. I was just telling one of my longtime clients this the other day. I was like, he says, like, when are you gonna retire? I go, when I can't move. I don't want to sit at home and do nothing. So like I said, I just sort of, somebody has something, I'm like, we don't want to do that. Go somewhere else, or in a nicer way. But so.
So, I mean, final question, Steve. From your perspective, what can we expect in the future for broadcasting technology?
Oh, that's a tough one. I don't even know how to answer that.
We can condense it down into one word if you wish. Just one word for the future
simple.
Of broadcasting.
Simple.
I mean,
simple, easier than it is now. I mean, people are just, I think you're going to see the end to the traditional TV broadcast kind of facility. I mean, you can sort of already see it happening where there's a lot of clustering, from a broadcast perspective. I mean, we have a facility near us that was built by Comcast NBC. It's got 6 TV outlets, we'll call them, in there. And they're all just, they're all feeding off of one resource, right? They're just, rebroadcasting and stuff. I think they're just hubs. They're just news hubs, to move information around. I think you're going to see a lot of that kind of stuff. And I think it's just, we get a lot of people involved that the traditional TV engineer, I think, is gone. Like I said, it's all IP, a lot of automation. They want to drive their costs down. There's very few people involved in behind the scenes. In a traditional TV station years ago, I mean, you had probably a half a dozen people to keep it on the air, and now they could do it with one person runs 5 TV stations, right? Yeah, I think, less overload of people, more automation, that kind of stuff. Pretty soon we'll be having computer generated news people, they'll be able to get rid of them too. So, yeah. So there you go.
No, I completely agree, Steve. So once again, thank you very much for answering the questions we put forward for you today. It's been really insightful.
Oh, you're welcome.
So for anyone listening who's got any kind of system integration questions, software, hardware, where can they best get in touch with you guys?
They can reach us at fineassociates.com, or, all our contact information is out there. And we look forward to hearing from people.
Brilliant. Once again, thank you very much, Steve, for coming on.
Thank you.
It's been really great. Thank you.
Bye. Bye-bye.